They say you are too intense, too emotional, you care too much. But they never say it when they need you, only when you need them. They love your calm when they are falling apart. They love your silence when they are drowning in noise. They love your support until it's no longer convenient. Then suddenly, you are too much. And so you begin to shrink, to question yourself. Maybe I am too emotional. Maybe I do expect too much. Maybe I'm the problem. But deep down, you know something does not add up. You are not clingy. You're committed. You are not needy. You're present. You don't want attention. You crave connection. So, why does your love always end in exhaustion? Because in a world obsessed with surface, depth feels dangerous. People crave your light, but reject the shadow that makes it real. And the most painful question starts to haunt you. Am I just hard to love? But what if you are not broken? What if, just like Carl Jung discovered, your energy isn't the problem, it's the mirror. You reflect what others try to avoid, their fear, their shame, their emptiness, and instead of facing it, they take from you until you have nothing left. In this video, we will explore the hidden truth behind emotional parasites, why your energy attracts users, and how Jung's work can help you protect your light without dimming it. If you have ever felt invisible in a room, you lit up. Hit subscribe to Syphos. Because this channel, it sees through the masks, and this video might just explain why you feel so misunderstood. Carl Jung did not just study the mind. He studied the invisible, the things you feel but cannot explain. The way someone walks into the room and shifts the atmosphere. The way silence speaks louder than words. And the way energy, not logic, often guides our relationships. Jung called it psychic energy, not the mystical kind, but the psychological force behind everything we do. Your attention, your emotions, your instincts. It's the unseen fuel that powers your thoughts, decisions, and connections. Every word you speak, every feeling you give, every time you listen without interrupting, you are spending it. And here's the danger. Most people don't even realize what they are giving away, but others do. They see your energy, not your soul. They feel your calm and consume it. They notice your kindness and exploit it. Jung believed that this energy is not infinite. It's sacred, finite, precious. And when you pour it into people who only take, you begin to hollow out, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, until you forget what it feels like to be full. That's how it begins. They praise you for being so understanding. They lean on you when life gets heavy. And when they are strong again, they vanish. No explanation, no apology, just absence. As if your value disappeared the moment they were done needing you. But this is not love. It's not friendship. It's not a connection. It's consumption. This video dives deep into Carl Jung's understanding of psychic energy. Why are certain people addicted to your presence? How emotional vampires disguise themselves as lovers or friends? And most importantly, how to reclaim your energy before it breaks you. Because people might not love you, only the way you heal them. And if you don't learn how to protect your energy, you will spend your whole life fixing others while quietly falling apart yourself. Some people never ask how you are doing until they need something. They call only when their world is falling apart. They vent, cry, unload, and drain, and then they vanish. No thank you. No, how about you? Just silence. Until the next crisis. Carl Jung did not call them energy vampires, but he understood them better than anyone. He called it psychic projection, the act of casting your internal chaos onto someone else, unconsciously expecting them to carry what you refuse to face. You see, in Jungian psychology, every person has a shadow, a dark side filled with denied emotions, fears, and unmet needs. And instead of confronting their shadow, many people outsource it. They project it onto others. And who do they latch onto? The empathetic, the attuned, the people who listen deeply, who feel everything. You. They come to you because you are a safe place, but they don't treat you like a person. They treat you like a sponge. And over time, the signs are subtle but real. You feel tired after talking to them. You feel responsible for their pain. You feel guilty for setting boundaries. This is not a friendship. It's emotional leeching, but it does not start that way. At first they admire you. They call you wise. They say you are so good at listening. They open up fast, trauma dumping in the first few conversations, and they make you feel important, needed. But slowly the dynamic shifts. They stop showing interest in you. They dismiss your emotions. They make you feel selfish for wanting space. And worst of all, they guilt trip you when you pull away. According to Jung, this is classic shadow projection. They are not in love with you. They are in love with how you make them feel, regulated, seen, whole. But it's not sustainable because they are not healing. They are outsourcing. They refuse to build their own inner light, so they steal yours. And when you finally stop giving, they say you have changed. They accuse you of being cold. They find someone else to drain. And the cycle begins again. What's happening here is not always malicious. It's unconscious. But it's still dangerous because it leaves people like you emotionally bankrupt, confused, and doubting your worth. Jung believed that true connection requires two people who have met their own shadow, who have done the inner work. But energy vampires, they avoid that journey. Instead, they surround themselves with people who reflect their light back to them, so they don't have to go inward. In the end, you are not too intense. You're just resonating at a level they have not reached yet. And rather than rise up, they drain down. But once you become aware of this pattern, you can end it. You can stop confusing emotional labor with love. You can stop trying to heal people who refuse to heal themselves. You can finally say no without guilt. You can finally protect your energy without apology. Because your light is not for free. And it's not your job to set yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. You keep attracting the same kind of people, the ones who take more than they give, the ones who drain you, ghost you, then return like nothing happened, only when they need something. And maybe you've asked yourself, why do I keep ending up in these one-sided connections? You're empathetic, emotionally intelligent. You listen more than you speak. You try to be kind, understanding, even when it hurts. But still, you attract users, takers, emotional parasites. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This isn't fate. This is a pattern, and it's been running quietly beneath the surface for years. Let's go back. When you were young, your value was often tied to what you did, not who you were. Maybe you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable, so you became hyper-aware of others' moods. You learned to read the room, manage chaos, and shrink yourself to avoid conflict. You became the fixer, the peacemaker, the emotional sponge. You gave love, hoping it would be returned. You listened, hoping someone would finally ask you how you feel. You poured out energy, hoping one day someone would pour it back in. But they never did. And over time, your nervous system began to confuse overgiving with safety. To be loved, you had to earn it. To feel seen, you had to become invisible. This is how unconscious patterns form. And now, even as an adult, even though you're wiser, more self-aware, those early imprints still operate in the background. You're attracted to people who need you. You ignore people who see you, because being needed feels familiar, even if it's exhausting. But here's the trap. If you keep giving from a place of lack, you'll attract people who feed on that emptiness. Not because you're weak, but because you've never been taught that love doesn't require sacrifice. Jung believed that what we repress, what we deny in ourselves, ends up ruling us. If you were taught to repress your own needs, your voice, your anger, you'll unconsciously attract people who take advantage of that silence. You become the healer who never gets healed, the lover who never gets loved back, the giver who's always empty, and worst of all, you blame yourself. But you're not broken. You're just stuck in a loop your inner child thinks is love, and it's not. Love doesn't drain you. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't vanish when you finally ask for something in return. So, how do you break free? You begin by making the unconscious conscious. You notice the pattern. Who are you drawn to? And why? What do you tolerate? That drains you. When did you first learn that love had to be earned? And then, you choose differently. You stop proving your worth by how much you give. You start receiving without guilt. You set boundaries, not as walls, but as sacred filters. Because the truth is, you don't have to bleed to be seen. You don't have to shrink to be safe. You don't have to give everything to be loved. You just have to stop attracting from a place of lack and start embodying the love you never received. When that happens, everything changes. You have probably felt it. You are there for everyone. You check in. You remember the small things. You help. You hold space for their breakdowns, calm their storms, lift them when they fall, and yet, no one really sees you. Not your fears, not your pain, not your essence. They love your function, not your soul. Carl Jung had a word for this kind of performance: persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted. We all have one. It's the role we step into when we feel we have to earn belonging, the helper, the achiever, the reliable one. It's the version of ourselves we think the world wants, even if it means burying the parts we need the world to see. The problem is, the longer you wear the mask, the more invisible your real self becomes, even to you. You get praised for your kindness, but not noticed when you need care. You're loved for your calm energy, but no one asks about the storm inside. You're appreciated for your strength, but your quiet exhaustion goes unnoticed. Over time, this erodes you. You start to feel like a tool, useful, but not cherished, valuable, but not valued. People remember you when they need you, but when you need them, silence. It's a soul-deep loneliness, the kind you can't explain to anyone, because on the outside, you look fine. You smile, you nod, you say, "I'm okay." But deep down, you're screaming to be seen, not for what you do, but for who you are. And here's the twist. Most people don't even realize they're doing it. They're so used to you being the strong one. They don't think to ask if you're struggling. They're so comforted by your presence, they forget you also need to be held. It's not that they don't care, it's that your persona, the one Jung described, has done its job too well. You've convinced the world you're fine. You've hidden the parts that bleed. You've smiled when you were dying inside, because that's how you survived. But survival is not the same as wholeness. Jung warned that the more we identify with the persona, the more disconnected we become from the self, our true, authentic identity. And that disconnection, it leaves you feeling hollow, unseen, and resentful. Because it's exhausting to be loved for a mask you had to build just to feel safe. So, you start questioning everything. Do they really love me, or just how I serve them? If I stopped giving, would anyone stay? What happens if I drop the mask? These are terrifying questions, but they're also freeing, because the moment you ask them, you open a door Jung believed every person must walk through. The journey from persona to authenticity. You start showing up differently, less polished, more real. You start saying no, not out of cruelty but out of clarity. You stop performing for love and start receiving it without having to earn it. And suddenly, the dynamic shifts. Some people pull away because they were only attached to your function. Others get uncomfortable because your honesty threatens their illusions. But a few, a sacred few, will see you, not for your light, not for your calm, not for your usefulness, but for your being. These people, they are rare, but they're real, and they'll never make you feel invisible. So if you feel unseen, like your soul is hiding beneath layers of being enough, it's not because you're broken. It's because your light was trained to shine only in ways that made others comfortable. But it's time to take off the mask, to risk being real, to remember that the people who truly love you won't need you to perform. They'll see you. They'll choose you, exactly as you are. At first, it feels subtle. You say no, just once. You don't answer the call. You don't drop everything to help. You finally protect your time, your energy, your peace, and then silence. The people who once messaged you daily, gone. The ones who used to need you so desperately, they vanish like smoke. No fight, no closure, just absence. It's confusing. You wonder what you did wrong. You replay the moment you said, "I can't right now," trying to find the offense. But there wasn't one. You didn't change, you just stopped sacrificing yourself. And that's when their mask falls off. Because some people weren't there for you. They were there for your service, your availability, your emotional labor, your light. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your true, whole self, involves pulling back your energy from where it was unconsciously leaking out. It means no longer playing roles, no longer pouring into others just to be accepted, no longer letting your kindness be exploited as a currency for conditional love. And when you do this, when you reclaim your soul from everyone who's been feeding on it, the illusion shatters, because now the transaction is no longer worth it for them. They can't manipulate you with guilt. They can't access your energy on demand. They can't lean on your empathy while offering you nothing in return. And that's when you see the truth. Their presence was dependent on your self-abandonment. They didn't stay because of love. They stayed because of what you gave, endlessly, quietly, and without resistance. But the moment you grow, the moment you begin to individuate, as Jung called it, they withdraw. Not because you're toxic, not because you changed, but because your boundaries exposed their intentions. This realization is painful. It breaks your heart in a quiet, mature kind of way. You see the truth, not with anger, but with clarity. That love never demands your exhaustion. That real connection doesn't dissolve when you honor yourself. And yes, it's lonely at first. You miss them. You miss the illusion. You miss the version of you that always knew how to keep everyone happy. But you also feel something new. Peace. A strange, unfamiliar peace that comes from knowing you're no longer performing, no longer bleeding just to feel worthy, no longer bending to fit into spaces that only valued your function. This is individuation. Jung said that individuation is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole, reclaiming the parts of yourself you gave away to survive. It's the path back to your essence. And yes, that path often demands solitude, because when you stop giving, you stop attracting users, and in that stillness, in that silence, you finally begin to hear yourself. You reconnect with the voice beneath all the noise, the voice that says, you are not here to be drained, you are not here to be used, you are not here to be the emotional scaffoldings for people unwilling to build themselves. You are here to live, fully, freely, honestly. And those who disappear when you stop giving, let them go. Because the ones who stay, the ones who meet you at your depth, those are the people who don't just love your light, they love your boundaries too. It starts with a simple yes. You say yes when you are tired, yes when you are overwhelmed, yes when every fiber in your body is screaming for rest. Because saying no feels like a betrayal, not of them, but of the version of yourself you think you have to be. The reliable one, the strong one, the one who's always there. But over time, this constant availability, this open door policy for anyone who needs you, becomes a slow erosion of your identity. You begin to disappear beneath your own kindness. Carl Jung warned us about this trap. He believed that when we constantly suppress our real needs, our real boundaries, and our real desires, we create a fracture in the soul. This fracture is called repression, and it doesn't stay quiet forever. You repress your exhaustion to be helpful. You repress your anger to stay likable. You repress your truth to avoid disappointing others. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally bankrupt. Because every yes that betrays your truth is a withdrawal from your emotional bank account. Every fake smile, every forced conversation, every act of caretaking done from guilt instead of love, it all adds up. Until one day, you wake up and feel nothing. No joy, no spark, just numbness. This is the cost of being too available. You don't just lose your energy, you lose yourself. You lose the ability to recognize your own voice amidst the noise of everyone else's needs. You forget what you want because you've spent your entire life prioritizing what others expect from you. You feel invisible, not because others don't see you, but because you no longer see yourself. Jung saw this as one of the most dangerous forms of self-abandonment, becoming everything for everyone and nothing for yourself. He believed that when we repress who we are in order to belong, we create a false self, a mask we wear to survive. This mask says, I'm fine, I don't mind, I'm just happy to help. But behind it, there's grief, there's rage, there's a quiet longing to be loved without conditions. Because the truth is, constantly being there for others doesn't make you lovable, it makes you useful. And there's a difference. People grow to expect your sacrifice. They stop thanking you. They start depending on you like a utility, not a human being. And the more you give without boundaries, the more they forget you have boundaries. So you stretch, you break, You pour from an empty cup until you're running on fumes, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And no one notices because you train them not to. But here's the truth Jung would want you to hear. You are not here to be available for everyone. You are not here to be the fixer, the healer, the emotional sponge for other people's chaos. You are here to live fully, and that means honoring your limits. It means disappointing people. It means being misunderstood. It means saying no even when your voice shakes, because every no that honors your soul is a yes to your healing. Repression may feel like safety, but it's actually self-erasure, and the only way to reclaim yourself is to stop equating your worth with your availability. You are not valuable because you're always accessible. You are valuable because you exist. And when you finally pull back, when you let yourself be unavailable, you'll discover something miraculous. The real you is not selfish. The real you is not cold. The real you is free. There comes a moment after the exhaustion, the heartbreak, the hollowing out, when something inside you snaps, not in a violent way, but in a quiet, revolutionary way. A moment where you say, no more. No more being the emotional landfill for other people's problems. No more dimming your light to keep others comfortable. No more mistaking kindness for self-erasure. Carl Jung believed that this moment, this silent rebellion, is the beginning of true individuation, the beginning of becoming whole. But wholeness isn't about becoming nice again. It's about becoming real. And that starts with rebuilding your psychic boundaries, the invisible walls that protect your energy, your peace, yourself. Jung offered us 3 powerful tools for this transformation. For most of your life, you've repressed your anger, your assertiveness, your ability to say no without guilt. Why? Because somewhere along the way, you were taught those parts of you were bad. You had to be agreeable, selfless, always available, or risk being rejected. But Jung believed that everything we repress doesn't disappear. It becomes part of the shadow, the unconscious parts of us that hold our strength, our voice, our raw truth. Shadow work is the process of turning inward and reclaiming what you've disowned. It's admitting, I am allowed to take up space. My needs matter. Anger is not evil. It's information. As you integrate your shadow, you stop being an emotional sponge. You become a mirror, and people can no longer manipulate a mirror because it reflects truth, not compliance. Healing does not mean becoming someone new. It means remembering who you were before the world taught you to perform. Jung's concept of integration is about merging your conscious self with your unconscious, creating alignment between your soul and your choices. You stop playing roles. You stop shape-shifting for approval. You live from your center, not your wounds. You don't just set boundaries. You become one. Your presence starts to communicate. I don't abandon myself anymore. And people feel it. Some will leave. Let them. Because those who thrive on your dysfunction cannot survive your healing. Most people fear being alone, but solitude is not loneliness. It's self-communion. In solitude, you hear your own voice again. You rediscover your desires. You realize that your worth was never tied to how needed you were, but how whole you are when no one is watching. Jung called solitude a school of the soul. It's where clarity is born, where your energy returns, where your spirit sharpens its edges. Not for battle, but for truth. You don't need to prove your worth through overgiving. You just need to protect it. Pain becomes power. When you own the lesson, all the emotional betrayal, all the ghosting, all the draining relationships, they weren't your fault, but they were your curriculum. Each time someone took from you without giving back, you learned something vital about your own capacity and your own neglect. Now, you choose differently. You don't lash out. You level up. You don't explain, you embody. You don't chase, you create gravity. Because you're no longer the doormat. You are the doorway to a higher standard. And only those willing to meet you in truth are allowed in. Here's the irony no one talks about. The moment you stop begging for love is the moment love finds you. Not the kind that drains, confuses, or leaves you empty, but the kind that recognizes you. Not for what you give, but for who you are. Carl Jung believed that the more whole a person becomes, the less they chase external validation. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means integration. You no longer search for someone to complete you, Because you've already reclaimed the parts of yourself you gave away. And that changes your energy. Before, you radiated availability. You wore your empathy like an open door. Anyone could walk in, take what they needed, and leave crumbs behind. But now your energy says, I know my value. I know how to give and when to stop. I don't fear solitude because I'm no longer afraid of myself. And this shift does something extraordinary. It repels the users. They sense the boundary, the self-possession, the clarity, and it unnerves them. They can't manipulate what they can't control. But it also does something else. It attracts respect. People who once overlooked you now feel your presence before you even speak. Not because you're louder, but because you're rooted. You become magnetic, not by effort, but by authenticity. Because real love, true, reciprocal, soul-nourishing love only arrives when false attachments die. When you stop performing, stop overgiving, stop shrinking, and finally stand in your full, integrated self. That's when someone sees you and doesn't flinch. Not because they need you to heal them, but because they're healing too. Love isn't found in giving your energy away. It's found in protecting it and watching who still comes close. You were never too intense, too emotional, too deep. You were never too much. They were just too empty to hold you, too distracted to notice you, too broken to love you without draining you. Your energy wasn't a flaw. It was a gift, a warmth people clung to, because they hadn't built their own. But that doesn't mean you deserve to be used, to be seen as a well, and not a whole person. Carl Jung taught us that true power comes from within, not from how much you give others, but from how fully you reclaim yourself. So, if you felt invisible, discarded, or misunderstood, this is your sign to stop giving your soul away piece by piece. Withdraw your light from those who only stand in your sun, and save it for those who can meet you in the dark. Because the right people, they won't just need your energy, they'll honor it. If this resonated with you, take a breath and take your power back. And if you're ready to go deeper, subscribe to Psyphos, where your mind isn't judged, it's understood. Your energy is sacred, protect it. It's time.